Welcome to the March 2021 horoscopes. This is Miss Jenny and I am your astrologer. This month we're going to be starting out with a goddess story about the constellation the Pleiades, or the Seven Sisters. As this first week of March and carrying on through the month, there's a lot of activation with this constellation. So let's begin. The incredible story of the Seven Sisters constellation, also called the Pleiades. This story and information is brought to you by University, and there will be a link below if you guys want to read it. No other constellation in the sky has been subjected to so many myths, legends, and folklore in almost every culture on the planet. There are at least 43 different stories and names associated with the Pleiades, or the Seven Sisters constellation. In Hellenic Greece, the distinguishable cluster of stars forming the Pleiades were equated to the Seven Sisters, the virgin companions of goddess Artemis, who, to avoid the romantic advances of hunter Orion, were transformed into a flock of doves and set into the heavens by the god Zeus. They are viewed as positive omens throughout cultural history around the world, as their ascent at dawn heralded the planting and navigation seasons. The constellation was revered so much in Greek culture that a significant number of ancient temples on the Acropolis in Athens were constructed facing towards the ascent of the Pleiades. Astronomically, the Pleiades originated 100 million years ago and is situated nearly 440 light years away from Earth as an open astral cluster in the constellation of Taurus. According to Greek mythology, the Pleiades are seven sisters: Maia, Alcyone, Asterope, Celaeno, Taygeta, Electra, and Merope. It is parented by Atlas, a Titan and the one who bears the earth on his shoulders, and Pleione, a beautiful sea nymph or goddess, and also known as the mythical patroness of sailors. Various stories indicate that during a leisurely stroll in the woods, the seven sisters and their mother became the objects of desire by hunter Orion, and he made a hot pursuit for them. In a bid to save them from the amorous advances of the hunter god, Zeus turned them into a flock of doves and set them in the heavens. It is believed that Zeus later fathered children with three of these beautiful maidens. The seven sisters are popularly known as the water girls, or the ice maidens, or oceanids, imputable to their connection with water bodies: seas, river, rain, hail, snow, ice, or frost. Historic sources arrogate that the name Pleiades originates from the ancient Greek word plain, signifying to sail, or it also means a flock of doves. Maia is the eldest sister, known for her exceptional beauty and also her hermit life. Legend says that despite her striking good looks, she was a timid, slender woman who chose to live a solitary life in the caves. Maia means mother in Latin, and in other versions it also means nurse or great one. She was acknowledged by the Romans as their spring goddess, which is why the fifth month is called May. Alcyone is the second sister and known as the leader. She is said to look after the Mediterranean Sea and make it calm for sailors. She was married devotedly to the son of a morning star, Sex, the king of Thessaly. Asterope is traditionally depicted as one of the fainter sisters, possibly since this star is one of the two that radiates less brightly than the others. She is said to be the mother of Onomos by Ares, the god of war. Some interpretations of the myth arrogate that Onomos was in reality her husband, not her son, and that after bearing 4 children unitedly, he subsequently became the king of Pisa. Celaeno, or Cici, means melon or swarthy. Celaeno, like Asterope, radiates less brightly than the others according to legends. She was once stricken by lightning by Theon the Younger. She mothered children including sons, Lycus, or wolf, and Chimeras, part lion, dragon, and goat, by the Titan Prometheus, and sons Lycus and Nycteus by Poseidon, the god of the sea. Tegeta, or Tegi, like Maya, appreciated her freedom and lived a solitary life in the mountains. Electra is known as the third brightest star. She bore 4 children, one of which was Dardanus, the founder of the ancient city of Troy. Merope, the lost sister, is more commonly assumed as the lost Pleiade, as it was the last star to be mapped by astronomers, and is the dimmest star in the constellation, not visible to the naked eye. Various legends hint that she got lost because she felt disgraced about marrying a mortal, King Sisyphus. Other sources suggest that Merope hid herself as her husband was a malefactor whose punishment was to roll a heavy stone up a hill to the edge of heaven. The Jewish Talmud accords that God was displeased with mankind, and to punish them, he displaced the star from the cluster so that the cluster would rise off-season at daybreak, resulting in the biblical Great Flood. Aboriginal legends. According to Aboriginal tribes from the Northern Territories, the 7 sisters, or the Yungarmara water girls, were beautiful sorceresses of love, and their father, Dunia, was transformed into a crocodile for his incestuous nature. The tribes also believed that the stars were crystals, which is why they shine brightly. Native American legends. The Kiowa tribe echoes stories of 7 young girls playing along the stream when suddenly they are attacked and chased by bears. The petrified girls take refuge on top of a small rock and pray to the Great Spirit of nature to protect them. The Great Spirit heeds to their cries and makes the rock grow upward with almost vertical sides, taking the girls with it, thus not allowing the bears to reach them. The rock kept growing tall toward the heavens and transported the girls into the cosmos, converting them into stars. This 1,200-foot tall landmark is now known as Mateo Tipi, or Devil's Tower, in Wyoming, North America. The Western Mono Indians conceived the Pleiades stars as a group of wives who were overly fond of eating onions and were thrown out of their dwellings by their furious husbands. The aftermath was that they wandered into the sky and became stars. The Blackfoot tribes of Alberta and Montana believed that the stars were the orphan boys. The fatherless boys were eliminated by their tribe, but bonded by a pack of wolves. Because of their lonely living, the Great Spirit of nature turned them into stars so that they could play together in the heavens. According to Hindu legend, the Pleiades are conjointly known as Kritika, the wives of the 7 wise men, also known as the 7 rishis. Some legends suggest that there are 6 mothers of the god of war, Murugan, who explicated 6 faces, one for each of them. In Japanese culture, they are known as Subaru, which means unity. Significance in world culture and literature. The Pleiades has worked as a calendar for many civilizations. During the ancient Mediterranean world, the duration when the Pleiades cluster first appeared in the morning sky before sunrise heralded the opening of the navigation season. The contemporary festival of Halloween initiates from an old Druid rite that concurred with the midnight apogee of the Pleiades cluster. It is conceived that the veil discerning the living from the dead is at its thinnest when the Pleiades reaches the midheaven during midnight. The Zuni of New Mexico connotes the Pleiades as the seed stars, as its disappearance in the evening sky every spring harbingers the seed planting season. There originated a group of 7 Hellenistic tragic poets in Alexandria during the reign of Ptolemy Philadelphus, known as the Pleiades. Their famed literary works were lost during the destruction of the Great Library of Alexandria by Muslim armies in 642 CE. During the mid-16th century, radical French poets founded La Pléiade, which heralded the breaking away from medieval French poetic traditions. They are the first stars mentioned in literature in the Chinese annals of about 2350 BCE. The earliest European literature mentions are in a poem by Hesiod in 1000 BCE and in Homer's Odyssey and Iliad. The Bible comprises 3 direct mentions to the Pleiades in Job 9:9 and 38:31 and Amos 5:8, And a single acknowledgement in the New Testament comes from Revelation 1:16, in which a vision states that the Messiah holds 7 stars in his right hand during his second coming. Mythologically as well as astronomically, the Pleiades ruminates finest and closest instances of a reflection of a nebula related with a cluster of young stars. And that is your goddess story for the month. One of the most notable things about this month is that the planetary lineup forms what's called a bowl pattern. Where we find a bowl, as we would expect, we also find a curtailment or a focus, a narrowed focus of activity because of the concentration of planets in one section of the chart. So for many of us across the globe, we will be feeling very focused or restricted in our activities, very curtailed or hemmed in terms of what we can and can't do during the month. Now, the other thing about this is that at some point Mars will break away from the pack and Mars will move down into Gemini, and right now it's crossing through the Pleiades star system. So watching the activities of Mars and the aspects that it makes will be very important as we get through the month and will be very revealing. Also, looking at the 2 stelliums that are significantly represented in this bowl pattern are also very important. We have an Aquarius Pisces thing going on, and they are in semi-sextile relationship to each other, and they're both in stelliums, which is an even heavier, more dynamic emphasis on those signs and energies. And let's talk about that and how that's going to play out. Dates that I want you to keep an eye on during this time are March 4th, which will bring us to the better side of some really uncomfortable days, where the month is starting off on an uncomfortable hot foot. When we get to the 4th, we should have some reasons for optimism, or at least a guiding light to give us some sense of direction about how best to navigate ourselves out of difficult situations. The 9th, March 9th, I want you guys to listen to your inner promptings. Insights, ingenuity, and genius ideas are likely to come up out of nowhere around the 9th. So please pay attention to that. By the time we get down to the 12th and the new moon, we are about to turn a corner, which is on the other side of that new moon. On the 12th, we will have a new moon at 23 Pisces, and it will be sextiling Pluto. So hidden inside this new moon is the opportunity to really build some bridges or to secure some future alliances and support with very instrumental people in terms of effectively getting stuff done. So there is that. The other side of that, of course, is that it is also possible that at this time that people who are up to things that need to be kept under cover or hidden from the light of day and prying eyes will have an easier time accomplishing those things as well. So keep your ears and your eyes open. There will be a lot afoot around this time of the new moon. Okay, now I definitely want you to circle your calendars for these dates. March 15th through the 17th. And then put a star on the 18th. And the reason I say this is that March 15th through 17th, we're going to see tensions rise. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, but it does necessarily mean that it's something we have to manage so that we can get some benefit from this rather than more aggravation and destruction. So tension levels are mounting during these couple of days, the 15th through the 17th. And by the time we get to the 17th, we're going to be reaching critical mass. Now, if we manage this successfully, we will have found ways to avoid making things worse. So watch what you say, be careful who you say it to, pay attention to what you're doing, and watch your words. And if you can't get out of a sticky situation, then absolutely use as much self-control as possible. And under normal circumstances, I would say a sense of humor will do you a world of good. But in this particular case, showing any sign that you're finding humor in a situation will only make things worse. So for those of you who laugh when you're nervous, this is not the time. This is not the time. Okay, now, and here's where we can use it to our benefit, some of us anyway. By the time we get to the 18th, what's interesting is that we could theoretically parlay this building tension we've been experiencing into a release or a connection with other people intimately. So for those of you who are looking for love in all the right places and or all the wrong places, or every place but the place where you're wanting to find what you need, by the time we get to the 18th, this may be a great time to attract potential partners or to investigate potential partners. Things will be intense, they'll be exciting, and it will definitely give you an opportunity to blow off some steam and to work through some of this tension so that you don't explode or implode. For those of you who are in relationships that want to be able to use this to amplify or build up the more fun parts of your relationship, because that's been well overdue. By the time you get to the 18th, this is a great time for you and your partner to have some very active adult time with each other to work through this stuff. So this is going to be the last thing you're thinking about between the 15th and 17th. Like, happy fun time is not going to be on your mind. But keep in mind that by the time you get to the 18th, you'll turn a corner and this is going to be a whole other ball game. So if you can schedule some time off to be with your partner, if you can both schedule time off on that day or around that day or just after the 17th, on the 18th or 19th, you will be amazed at how much more positive use you're actually going to get out of those days than you expected before you got there. Ooh. Now, for those of you who are single and looking, or in open or poly relationships and looking, be mindful that around this time, people will have the fixed sights of a lusty bull going after a target. So be careful who you wave your red flag at, as it were, because people are not playing. There will be no half measures at this time. I also want you guys to circle March 24th because I believe that the bombing on Syria that the Biden administration just did at the end of February, which incidentally involved the fixed star Algol, cough, 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 we will be revisiting it on this day. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty confident that that's going to come up for review on the 24th. Also, separate from that, this is not a happy day, so we can expect more of that being backed into a corner and things kind of exploding, right? On this day. So do handle your human relations very gently, and let's see what happens with the other parts of the world. So we definitely want to watch the transits of Mars this month. So February 26th, Mars conjuncted the fixed star Algol. It is the fixed star of hysteria and losing your head and beheading and homosexuality and all sorts of bad, awful things. But in reality, Algol is the fixed star of feminine power. And we'll talk about that in another video. But trust me when I tell you, Algol is not all bad. Now, and it also has to do with wealth, which is kind of interesting, but that's another conversation. On March 3rd, Mars will conjunct Alcyone, and on March 13th, Mars will conjunct the Hyades, which are the sister stars to the Pleiades. The Hyades bring less than happy news with them. And this is where the expression, the 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 Pleiades, the weeping sisters, will give you something to cry about. On March 17th, Mars will conjunct Ain or Ein, which is a, a very lusty fixed star. On March 19th, Mars will conjunct Aldebaran, which is a very powerful, forceful star, very much about getting stuff done. And on March 31st, we finally leave this cluster of weeping sisters and all this stuff that's just this out of control kind of feelings. And we conjunct Regal, which is a wonderful fixed star that has to do with humor and invention and technology and luck and communications and all sorts of wonderful things. So until we get to the 31st, no, we've got quite the bumpy ride ahead of us. We'll get through it. And it will certainly, the month will certainly not be without its moments of high soap opera drama in the "my darling, I love you, what have you been" sort of way. So for those of you who are actively engaged in relationships or pursuing them, this will definitely be a soap opera month, complete with soap opera levels of love, lust, passion, longing, jealousy, the whole kit and caboodle. You know, and of course, interspersed in there will be life. Now, speaking of soap opera living and the high drama, full technicolor passion, whew, lust and longing. The full moon that closes the month is also going to be a fan-frickin-tastic full moon for exactly these things. So get a red pencil and make little red hearts around these dates, March 26th and 28th, and draw a line connecting those 3 days or 2 days. This full moon, beginning on the 26th, before it occurs, is promising to bring some outstanding romantic and intimate tomfoolery that's going to go down in the books as dates to remember, either actual courtship dates or dates like, wow, to remember that time when. So these are, it's, the month will end on a high note because more than anything else, everyone, everywhere, everything we do is because we have a desire to be loved and to be desired and wanted and appreciated and valued. These are the reasons we do the things that we do. Okay? And this end of the month full moon is absolutely going to bring all those things to the forefront in big, bold, bright soap opera letters. More for some of us than others, but we're all going to be getting a taste of that. So even if we're not in participating in it, we will have the opportunity to watch it in other people and enjoy it vicariously through them. And it will feel just as good. So this month is, you know, listen, it's a month. It is a month. And this is luckily a relatively quiet lull compared to some of the other months we've been dealing with and things that we have coming up ahead. Between all the insanity that's going on in the world as far as the big meta picture, at the end of the day, it's our personal lives and our personal relationships and the people in our lives on a personal level that get us from one day to the next and make life worth living moving forward and give us meaning and purpose for doing what we do. So fight the good fight, keep the faith, know that everything you do that comes from a place of love and integrity, okay, not selfishness, destructiveness, or hatred, but love and integrity and charity, mercy are literally the best things you can possibly feed into right now, because it will pay you back 1,000-fold. And that's it. And very quickly, things you should know before you go. Help keep this information free by liking, subscribing, and sharing. If you have a question about the monthly aspects or the month, feel free to ask or comment in the comment section below. I invite the conversation. Palmistry class, an online palmistry class will be held through the Body, Mind, Spirit Expo. I will put a registration link for the expo in the description box. This will be held on March 6th. If you are attending that class with me, please send me a photocopy of both your palms at my email with your registered name for the class or the expo so that I know that you're in my class. That's it. You guys have a great month and we'll talk to you shortly. Bye.